Hello, welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to be taking a look at A-Level English Language Paper 1, May-June 2014, Variant 1-3. Do apologize about this being 2014. I actually meant to print the 2021, but I accidentally printed the wrong one and didn't realize on time while I was prepping. Okay, but still a very good paper, still a lot of valuable things. It's just that this paper is a little bit outdated, but it's okay. I was going to get to it anyway, so after this one I'll go back to 2020 and keep doing the most recent papers until I reach the earlier years, right? Okay, but this paper consists of the same layout. We have 3 questions from which we need to choose 2 to answer. Okay, and actually for this paper I will not be going through question 2 because question 2, the text was not given due to copyright issues, so we would only be taking a look at question 1 and question 3, the full solutions. Okay, and here they also have tips in regards of how to go about writing this paper, and of course the reminder for good English and clear presentation. Okay, so let's get started. Oops. Our first question, let's quickly read that. The following text is taken from an online advertisement for a luxury apartment called Pembroke in Cape Town, South Africa. A. Comment on the ways in which language and style are used to promote the accommodation of its location, right? And remember that language has to do with everything that is technical as far as English, so vocabulary being complex or not, figure of speech, sentence length, anything that has to do with grammar and all the technicalities of writing in English. While style is more about how does someone communicate. All right, and this is where it gets a bit weird because you do need language to create style. Okay, but style, we focus more on the tone and rhetorics, pathos, ethos, logos, but they are intertwined because you do need language to create style. Okay, and we also have part B. The same company posts a similar online advertisement for a different luxury apartment they run in your own part of the world. So your own part of the world, write a section between 120 to 150 words of this advertisement. Base your answer closely on the style and features of the original extract. Okay, so of course we will start with A and then we'll take a look at what I have for B. And before we go through language and style, I'll go ahead and I'll read this text for you. Okay. Set on the water's edge in the heart of Cape Town's acclaimed waterfront, Pembroke is the quintessence of luxury serviced accommodation for either business or holiday, rubbing shoulders with 2 of the world's leading hotels, the One and Only and Cape Grace. Within walking distance of a myriad of bistros, gourmet restaurants, popular and designer shopping, and an internationally renowned aquarium, Pembroke is an oasis to which you can retreat after sampling the city's busy delights. Perched above the marina, relax and enjoy a languid drink at sunset, looking out over the water, or contemplate the majesty of Table Mountain after an invigorating day out and about. When only the very best will do for your Cape Town trip, why look any further? Retail food outlets and fine dining establishments are within walking distance. For a special occasion, enlist a private chef for that indulgent gourmet meal. We can arrange tours of the winelands as well as trips to experience the exceptional regional flora and fauna, example, botanical gardens or whale spotting. The Cape is also a hotspot for golf with many nearby courses. We will gladly organize airport transfers as well as assist with vehicle hire during your stay. This luxury serviced apartment's bedroom suite, which comes with a plush extra-length king bed and luxury linen, commands superb views across the marina to Cape Town's waterfront and the ocean beyond. There is an open-plan dressing room and ensuite bathroom with separate wet room and power shower. A regal double bath, enjoying views over the harbor, twin bassins, and bidet. The bed is an extra length king size, dressed with the finest linens with which to enjoy your marina bedroom choice of TV, film, or music from the flat screen TV and the surround sound speakers link to the apartment's integrated audiovisual system, enhanced by mood lighting to orchestrate the ambiance of the moment, and all by remote control. That was a mouthful. This was one sentence. This whole thing, one sentence, very long. Anyway, moving on. The suite enjoys vistas of Table Mountain and the Cableway, Signal Hill, and the Noonday Gun. You'll hear its crack at 12 precisely. With the one and only hotel and its private villas huddled around the canal below. There are magnificent views of the green belt of Signal Hill from even the shower and bath. The terrace, too, invites you to step out and contemplate this panorama. On a balmy summer's evening, the play of light is remarkable. Extra sleeping accommodation is available in the TV lounge with a pair of Extra sleeping accommodation is available in the TV lounge with a pair of specially commissioned daybeds imported from Switzerland. By day, these form very smart and comfortable seating or lounging spaces, while at night, they can convert into fully functional beds on sprung bases to make a pair of twins or a king bed. This area is serviced by another bathroom with its own wet room and power shower. The fully equipped kitchen is ergonomic perfection. Built-in appliances coupled with finger-touch drawers and cupboards make it heaven for gastronomes. Stylish cobalt blue stone surfaces punctuated with silver glints add a dramatic signature to the kitchen's muted off-white and teal color scheme. Aspiring chefs can communicate directly with their guests in the lounge and dining area with a serving counter providing direct and practical access from the kitchen. The glass dining table is another spectacular creation and provides generous seating for at least 8 people. The extremely comfortable dining chairs were specially made in a gray-blue leather to match the sofa in the lounge and to marry in with tall units in the kitchen. The lighting of the dining area was created for atmosphere to allow focused lighting on the table while reducing the light level throughout the rest of the open plan space. All this can be adjusted at the touch of a button on the remote control. We love to dine here having put together a lovely meal with a good bottle of wine from our cellar collection, also available to our guests. A few tea lights in white porcelain holders add further to the atmosphere, as does the wonderful sound of the music from the speakers. Looking towards the balcony from the table and through the sheer red chili metallic drapes, the lights of the marina shine like stars. It really is so magical. Ooh, okay. That was a long advertisement. Okay. I hope that you understood the reading. If there's anyone who's struggling with maybe me reading too fast or not taking time to summarize each paragraph, let me know. I usually just go over the reading pretty quickly because I just assume that you guys are following. But if anybody would like me to do this differently or be a little slow or stop and summarize what we've read so far, please let me know in the comments and I'll adjust. Okay, with that being said, let's jump right into language and style. So we'll start with language, I guess. First thing I noticed, just before I speak of language, I just want to make a comment about this text. Overall, I personally, I'm not sure about you, but just hearing me read it, maybe it's a problem with the way I read, but I think that it was just so much detailed. It's heavy for an advertisement, right? Because this is an advertisement, and for advertising, I think that it needs to be a little bit quicker. So if you want to comment on the style, the just global style, you can say that it seems like it's a little much for an advertisement. It's very heavy. It's too much details. Like, for example, this whole paragraph here, which is paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, was one sentence. It's so much. So by the time that you get to the end of the sentence, you kind of lost what was being said in the beginning, which is, we'll talk about that when we get here, we're talking about language first, so let's do that. Let's just talk about the sentences. Sentences are long and medium. There's only this one short sentence here that's related to style, but they're very long sentences, and I would argue that when you have long sentences, it's easy to get lost in that sentence. Short sentences are rather, when they're very concise, then it's easier for people to just right away understand the information that's being relayed to them, right? So for advertisements, keeping it short, I think, is usually better because you just get straight to the point, right? And like here, I don't even remember what they were saying about the TV, but it's just very long, okay? So I would mention that, and we'll get to this later for that short sentence, okay? Let's take a look at other things related to language. So first thing that I've noticed in our first paragraph, we have personification, okay? So it talks about Pembroke, the luxury building, rubbing shoulders with two of the world's leading hotels. So rubbing shoulders meaning that Pembroke, this building, is right next to two of the world's leading hotels. So it is a personification because apartment buildings do not have shoulders, so they can't rub shoulders with other apartments. Okay, so this is definitely a figure of speech. All right, another thing that I've noticed as far as of language is there's a lot of repetition throughout the text. Walking distance, length king bed. Bed is an extra length king size. So a little bit different, but it's the same concept. It's repeating that the bed is large. There's walking distance. Also, here I noticed something else. You can also make adjustments by remote control. And then later on, we also have another thing that was mentioned about a remote control. Find that here for you. Just a few seconds. Yes, all this can be adjusted at the touch of a button on a remote control. Okay, so these repetitions, we have repetition about the king bed. Okay, again here. We have repetitions about the fact that the bed is large. So they really want to reiterate the fact that the bed in the apartment, this luxury suite, is a big bed. People like big beds. And also they want to make sure that people know that the luxury apartment is near a lot of popular things, walking distance of all these cool places. Okay, and the other thing that had to do with repetition was remote control. So the comment about the remote control just means that they say that they offer you so many great things, but all of these things can be adjusted, right? So they tailor the experience. The experience can be tailored to your liking. Okay? And they make sure you know that through repetition of certain things. Okay? Another figure of speech that I found is a metaphor. When the writer says Pembroke is an oasis. Okay? So Pembroke is an oasis. They stress that. Oh, an oasis as well as I'm not sure how to explain this, but if you go in, I'm not sure, I talk about a lot of movies, I realize. So if you ever watched one of those movies where people adventure in a forest or they're lost in the desert or something like that, and then eventually they walk and they see that place with, they're in a very gritty and kind of scary forest or desert, and then they end up reaching a part where there's water and animals and it looks like a paradise. That's an oasis. So it's basically a hidden gem somewhere that's not that pleasant. Okay? Right? And another thing that I noticed for figure of speech is we have a rhetorical question, and at the same time it's the effect that it has is the style. Oh, by the way, another thing I want to mention is, remember, here we are commenting on the ways in which language and style are used to promote the accommodation and its location. Okay, so every time you make a comment, you have to justify the effect that it has in regards to promoting. Okay, so here comparing it to an oasis means that it's comparing it to some paradise-like location. Okay, so that's the effect that this metaphor has. Here, rubbing shoulders, it really gives people the idea of everyone. I feel like everyone's rubbed shoulders. You might have been in a place where it's really packed with people. I feel like most of us have experienced that in your life, where you're in a place where there's a lot of people and you're super close to everyone, that your shoulders are touching someone else's shoulders. So by using this personification, it really makes you understand, and it can make you relate and imagine how close you would be to world's leading hotels. Okay, so you're very close to really luxurious places. So that's the effect that this has. Rhetorical question. Why look any further? And here they say, when only the very best will do for your Cape Town trip. So what they mean here is, if you're looking to go to Cape Town and you only want the best, then why would you look any further? So they're basically saying that Pembroke is the best of the best. So if you really want the best, why would you go somewhere else? Okay, we have the rhetorical question, and it is used to create an emotional response. All right, so this is why I say pathos, because it touches your emotions and you're like, oh yeah, this is, I really want to go there now, right? And then logos as well, because it's logic, right? Logic, if I want the best and someone gives me the best, would I not take it, right? It's logical. So that's the effect that this sentence here has on the reader. Okay, and as far as language, here at the bottom we have more personification. Here on each side I wrote personification. They seem to really like personification. I found 3 accounts so far. Okay, so for this one here, it's private villas huddled around the canal below. So huddled is our keyword there. So villas, they're not humans. They don't huddle and gather around something. They can't move, right? They're objects. So this is a personification. And again, I think that it is to make the reader really get the sense of what they're trying to relay, which is that the one and only hotel and its private villas, they're very close to the canal, the villas. Okay, now moving on to this personification. The terrace too invites you to step out to contemplate this panorama. Okay, the terrace too invites you. So the terrace is not a human. The patio, it cannot call you or text you and say, hey, come out and look at the view, right? So this is a personification, but what they mean, the effect that it has rather on the reader, is that they're talking about how beautiful the patio is. So when you see it, it's so beautiful that it's almost drawing you in and telling you, oh, come out. So this is the effect. You can imagine a terrace that's really beautiful and that you're like, I have to step out and go there. Okay, so that's the effect that has. Grammatical person, we have first and second, which makes sense. First is through the use of we. Okay, and I saw that. Let's take a look. Where I've seen that. I saw it in a sentence where they're talking about their services, and we can accommodate or something like that. Let me try to find it. Yes, we left. We left to dine here. There's another place. Yeah, here. This is where I first spotted it. We will gladly organize airport transfers. Okay, so they do use we. So second and first, ignore the plus there because I didn't really see third. First and second. So second you have you, right? You, where is it? for your. Trying to see where they explicitly say you. I can't see it. Okay, you know what? I can't see it. I'm going to start underlining those because I don't want to waste too much time trying to look for it. But they do mention you somewhere in here. Oh yeah, there. I always find stuff when I'm about to give up. Pembroke is an oasis to which you can retreat after sampling the city's busy delights. Okay, so you, it's right there. So those are the two grammatical persons that I was able to find. If you find third person, please leave a comment down below so that everyone can be aware of that. Okay. We have a hyperbole, another figure of speech. Built-in appliances coupled with finger-touch drawers and cupboards make it heaven for gastronomes. Okay, so this is a exaggeration, making it heaven. Yes, fully equipped kitchen is ergonomic perfection. So what effect does it have here? The effect that it has is that excuse me. The effect that it has is that if there's anybody who loves food and who maybe likes kitchens, they're really trying to target these people in this paragraph by saying that the kitchen is gorgeous. So if you're someone who travels and you like to maybe stay in and cook for yourself, this would definitely attract you, especially when they say it'll make it heaven for gastronomes. So they're appealing to all the foodies, all the food lovers out there. Okay. And we have a simile. The lights of the marina shine like stars. Okay. Simile, like stars. So comparing the lights of the marina to stars. Okay. Now looking at the vocabulary. Vocabulary is formal and professional. I did not spot any contractions. So let's see, I did not spot any contractions. Yeah, there are magnificent views instead of saying there's magnificent views. Exactly. Again, there is an open plan instead of saying there's an open plan. We will gladly organize instead of saying we'll gladly organize. Okay, so I have not spotted any contractions. So it makes it formal. And there are also sophisticated words. A few uncommon words in here that are not used on a day-to-day. See, invigorating, day out and about. Okay, when you usually have casual conversations, you don't say invigorating. You might use a simpler term. Okay, retail food outlets and fine dining establishments. Okay, casual conversations, you'll say retail food outlets and fine dining places or fine dining locations are within distance. So they use a few sophisticated terms because it is a professional advertisement, right? Right, I'm trying to see if there's any other weird word that I can, maybe not weird, but just a little bit complicated. No, yeah. I would argue that the vocabulary is not super complex, so you won't have a hard time to read it. But there are a few words in here that are slightly not very common, especially this one here, quintessence, which means the epitome. So the it factor, the definition of luxury, right? So they could have said Pembroke is the definition of luxury instead of saying quintessence. So a few on common words. Now let's take a look. That's all I have for the language. Okay, and then now for style. Okay, style, I noticed first off that the writer uses passing comments, botanical gardens or whale spotting in parentheses. There's another passing comment here, parentheses. Oops, I lied, by the way. Here's a contraction. But note that the contraction here, Yule, the contraction is inside the passing comment and not within the main text, okay? So I think that's important. Here you can say that contractions, maybe if you check deeper, but I believe that this might be the only contraction. Looks like it is. It's the only contraction where it gets a little bit informal. So overall the text is formal, but inside the passing comments, the author does loosen up and there's a contraction that was used there. Okay. And another thing is we have another passing comment here. So they use more than one way to have passing comments in the text. We have parentheses and then we also have the dash. Okay, so there's those two ways for the passing comment. Also, another thing that I noticed about style is that last short sentence. So the short sentence makes it an impactful ending. Okay, and here I know this is the ending because in the question it's letting us know that the following text is taken from an online advertisement and it's not an extract of the advertisement. There's nowhere that says it's an extract, so that's why I'm assuming that this is the actual ending. And it's very powerful to have the short sentence there because it's somewhat just a little bit, gives me the same effect as a mic drop. You know, when people are on stage and they're speaking and then they just, when they're done, they just drop the mic and walk off and everybody starts going crazy because they're like, ooh, such a dramatic ending. So same thing here. In the text, everything was so long and such a mouthful. And then at the end, I feel like this gives me the impression that the writer is saying, anyway, if there's one thing that you need to know about Pembroke, it's that it just really is so magical. And that's it. And I'm done. Okay. So that's the effect that it gives to the reader, well, at least me. Okay. Other things that I've noticed about style is the tone is professional and enthusiastic, despite the fact that the sentences are long. So it's very, when I read this, I feel like I'm getting a lot of information and so many details about the specs of the building and the unit itself, right? The suite itself. So it gives me that very professional tone, okay? Because they know what they're talking about. They know their specs. They know everything, all the little details, right? So very professional. It also gives me the enthusiastic vibe because they enthusiastic tone is because I would say it's an advertisement, so an advertisement has to be enthusiastic. But let's see if we can find, there's no exclamation marks that make it super obvious that it's enthusiastic. Extremely, well, it really is so magical. Yes, this has enthusiasm in that statement. Also, the why look any further, right? There's enthusiasm there. Okay, yeah. So I cannot pinpoint a specific statement that really makes me think that the person's super joyful and excited, but advertisement does equate to enthusiasm unless they're trying to self-sabotage. Okay, so I do think that it's fair if you argue the tone to be enthusiastic, because they are inviting you, especially if you point this out, right? There's enthusiasm here. When only the very best will do for your Cape Town trip. Why look any further, right? So there's enthusiasm there. Another thing that I've noticed, well, the last thing here that I would like to point out about style that really bothers me about this advertisement is there's no structure to it, right? There's no subheadings. There's no, we don't have the title. So it makes it hard to skim through or to scan the text. Like, imagine if you wanted to go to this Pembroke building and you give your friend or your parents this advertisement and you're like, this place is great, here's the advertisement. The people that you're giving it to will probably be like, oh, so I have to read the whole thing to find out what this is about, right? With subheadings, it would be easier to know where the information, to organize the information, right? Like here we're talking about the kitchen, and here we're just talking about restaurants, and here we're talking about TVs, and then later on we're talking about terrace and the beds, right? So it would be nice to have it structured in some way. So if I'm someone who cares about kitchens when I travel, I would have a subheading here, and I would know to just not care about everything here and just go read this paragraph. But if I'm someone that cares about location and what is around me, the attractions, then I would want to read this part here. Okay, so I think that's a flaw from the style that was used to write this advertisement, is there's no subheadings, no structure to really help the reader identify how the information is organized. Okay, so that is what I have for part A. And part B is asking, well, is saying the following: the same company posts a similar online advertisement for a different luxury apartment they run in your own part of the world. Excuse me. Write a section of this advertisement. So just a section, write 120 to 150 words. Base your answer closely on the style and features of the original extract. Okay. So, yes, here are the tips and the tricks that I have regarding to question B, is that they do mention to base your answer closely on the style and features of the original text. So what I would do and what I did is I decided to write the beginning, because they're saying write a section of the advertisement. So I decided to write the beginning, right? And then the next thing that I did is I said, okay, I just need to pick a different name Then Pembroke, I also need to pick a different location. And then I just need to somewhat copy. I need to copy what they wrote, but paraphrasing in different ways using synonyms and just making sure that I don't copy word for word, essentially, right? But you can heavily just use this text to create your own, and it makes your life easier than just having to make up everything from scratch, okay? And I'll show you how I did it and walk you through by comparing my answer to the original text. Oops. So here, all right. So first thing I did, I said, where is my location going to be? And remember, they say luxury apartments, so I'm like, okay, it has to be a luxury place. Well, a place that people think is luxurious, at least, right? So I said, okay, so my thing is going to be in Paris, right? Paris is pretty luxurious based on what people think. And what am I going to name my building? This one was really random. I had to think of something. I just decided to think of something that is French because it's Paris. So I came up with La Joconde. Okay, so La Joconde. And then I also made sure I chose Paris because it's a place I know there's just a lot of very popular sightseeing kind of stuff to do around there. So it made my life easier as well. Okay. So first sentence, set on the water's edge in the heart of Cape Town's acclaimed waterfront. Right? So this sentence here is telling us where Pembroke is located. So, well, first part of the sentence. So I literally copied the same thing and I said situated. So instead of saying set on, I said situated just a few meters away from the Eiffel Tower. They said Pembroke. I say La Joconde is the quintessence of luxury serviced accommodation for either business or holiday, rubbing shoulders with two of the world's leading hotels. So I decided to stop here at holiday. So it's the quintessence of luxury, I say, is the epitome, which is simply a synonym of quintessence, which is why I always encourage all of you to expand your vocabulary, because the more you know, the more words you know, the more easy it will be for you to just get through these English exams, right? That's just the honest truth. Especially when it comes to English, there's no secret method. It's not like math where you can just learn one thing and learn one question and all the other questions are very similar, and you can apply the same tricks and just get to whatever answer you get to. With English, it's a little more different. It depends on the content that you're presented with, right? It depends on the language that is given to you. Anyway, that was just a little side note. So here I say La Joconde is the epitome of romance and luxury as its spine-tingling architecture kisses the clouds. And this is me just trying to be fancy and detailed because the text is really fancy and detailed. So main point here is just note how similar my first paragraph is to their first paragraph. I did that on purpose. Okay? Next thing that I did is I did a copy and paste within walking distance. So I say within walking distance, and I think this is fair. It's not much of a copy and paste. And also I can argue that they say here in question B, it is said that the same company posts a similar online advertisement. So it's the same company that I'm writing for, right? So it makes sense that if some of the words that they use will be the same. Okay, we just can't take everything. We have to be smart about it. So within walking distance from Michelin restaurants, art museums, and a worldwide renowned Seine River. Okay, very similar to what we have here. Within walking distance of a myriad of bistros, gourmet restaurants, popular and designer shopping, right? I just changed mine. It's a Michelin restaurants, art museums, and a worldwide renowned Seine River. Here they said internationally, so I use worldwide. Instead, renowned aquarium, I say renowned Seine River because Seine River is in Paris and it's very popular. And they say Pembroke is an oasis to which you can retreat after sampling the city's busy delights. And what do I say? I say La Joconde is a splendid lair where you can sit back and rest your feet after a day out and about. Okay, so I don't use oasis, I use lair. And a lair is kind of like not a secret, but it's the place where you go where you just want to. It's your spot, you know, like kind of like a cave, or you know how people say that men usually have a man cave in the garage where they have their video games or whatever, and then they don't want any women to go in there. They like basically your area, right? Just for you. So that's what I did there. So again, I just simply looked at paragraph 2 and I said, how can I copy this without really, explicitly being very obvious when I'm copying it? So I just looked at what I have here and found synonyms and tried to keep the same style and just replace the words. Okay, which is fair game. Okay, and then next thing, what I did, I said, okay, this paragraph is kind of, couldn't see. This paragraph here is kind of similar to the one above. So I said, I'll just skip this one and I'll just go right here, right? When only the very best will do for your Cape Town trip, why look any further? Right, I'll just drink water quickly. All right. Okay. Right, why look any further? So what I did, I copied that sentence too. So right here, I say, when you demand nothing less than perfection, why look elsewhere? Right? Why look any further? I say, why look elsewhere? So I basically just paraphrased this rhetorical question. Okay? And then the next thing that I did is, for me, one part that was easy to remember for me was, because I like food. So the part here when they're talking about the chef, right? They say, where was it? About the chef being here's adjusted. Where was that comment? You can hire a chef. I think I'm blind. Give me 2 more seconds. I'm just trying to find that. Oh, wow. It was right there at the beginning. So silly. Okay, so it turns out it is right under here, right? So right under our rhetorical question. It does mention, next thing is that for a special occasion, enlist a private chef. A private chef Okay, it's pronounced chef. A private chef that can cook a gourmet meal for you. Okay, and yes, so here I got stuck on that one. So for my last paragraph, and going on with the other paragraphs in the original text, they basically tell you why the Pembroke is so amazing, and about the bed and about the kitchen and about the food and everything that's within the building. So I said, okay, I need to also include details about what's inside La Joconde. So here in the last paragraph, I say, the high-rise is courteously equipped, and courteously means at our own expense, right? Because also the reason why I added courteously is because they do say that, we will organize stuff for you. Everything's adjustable, and we have this for you. We give you this. So for me, I simply said is courteously equipped, so courteously at our own expense, equipped with everything that you will need on the days that you decide to lounge on the premises. So La Joconde has everything that you need in case you don't want to go out to all these cool places that I mentioned up here. And I say enlisting a private chef, just like it is said here, right? Enlist a private chef. So I say enlisting a private chef to enchant your palate, or visiting the spa to make good use of the oodles. So oodles mean multitude. Of the oodles of health and wellness services are only two of the many activities that are at your disposal. Okay, so I say again, remember 120 to 150 words. So just by counting here, I knew I was reaching my limit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So already 12 sentences. The first sentence had about a little bit more than 10 words. And, I just do give and take. So I say average, just looking at my sentences, there's about 10 words, and I'm already at 12. So I'm already reaching 120. So by the time I was done writing this, I said, okay, I need to wrap it up, right? With about 4, 5, maximum 6 more sentences. That's how I kind of gauge my word count. Okay? And this is why I really wrap it up here. And I wrap it up by saying, hey, if you don't want to go out, there are things that can be done inside the building. And then I state 2 things. First thing is I copy the original text. I say you can hire a chef you can book a chef to enchant your palate. Okay, so figure of speech here. I'm just trying to say that they will cook for you good food. Or if you don't want the chef and the food, you can visit the spa. I got lost for a second. You can visit the spa to make good use of the oodles of health and wellness services with only 2 of the many, are only 2 of the many activities. Okay, so I just wrap it up. And oodles, meaning multitude, I just threw that in there because they do use fancy words in the original text, right? So I thought to myself, okay, what can I just throw in there to make it look a little fancy, right? So again, expanding your English vocabulary, word of the day is great for that. So it may seem like word of the days may seem like just little videos, but they're very good. Very, very good for learning. Okay, so that's what I have for B. All right, and that's what we have for question 1. Moving on to question 3, because remember question 2, we don't have the text because of copyright reasons. So let's just go forward with question 3. The following text is taken from an autobiographical, that's a word, pretty interesting word, autobiographical account. The writer recalls his early life in Havana, Cuba, and the time when the leader of the country, Batista, was overthrown by his opponents. At this stage, the writer feels that he is an outsider both in terms of his family and the outside world. Comment on the ways in which language and style are used to represent the writer's thoughts and feelings. So here again, important, the effect that it has on him expressing his thoughts and feelings. Okay. Oops. So I'll just adjust my camera for 2 seconds. Okay. In part B, we have later the writer's mother records the experience of this day in her diary. Write a section of the diary entry. Okay, and of course, basing the answer closely on the material of the original extract. Okay, let's get started. The world changed while I slept, and much to my surprise, no one had consulted me. That's how it would always be from that day forward. Of course, that's the way it had been all along. I just didn't know it until that morning. I was barely 8 years old, and I had spent hours dreaming of childish things, as children do. My father, who vividly remembered his prior incarnation as King Louis XVI of France, probably dreamt of costume balls, mobs, and guillotines. My mother, who had no memory of having been Marie Antoinette, couldn't have shared in his dreams. Maybe she dreamt of Maybe she dreamt of hibiscus blossoms and fine silk. Maybe she dreamt of angels, as she always encouraged me to do. Sueña con los angelitos, she would say. Dream of little angels. The fact that they were little meant they were too cute to be fallen angels. The tropical sun knifed through the gaps in the wooden shutters, as always, extending in narrow shafts of light above my bed, revealing entire galaxies of swirling dust specks. I stared at the dust, as always, wrapped. I don't remember getting out of bed, but I do remember walking into my parents' bedroom. Their shutters were open and the room was flooded with light. As always, my father was putting on his trousers over his shoes. He always put on his socks and shoes first, and then his trousers. For years, I tried to duplicate that nearly magical feat with little success. The cuffs of my pants would always get stuck on my shoes, and no amount of tugging could free them. More than once, I risked an eternity in hell and spat out swear words. As he slid his baggy trousers over his brown shoes, effortlessly, Louis XVI broke the news to me. Batista is gone. He flew out of Havana early this morning. It looks like the rebels have won. You lie, I said. No, I swear it's true, he replied. Marie Antoinette, my mother, assured me it was true as she applied lipstick seated at her vanity table. It was a beautiful piece of mahogany furniture with 3 mirrors, one flat against the wall and 2 on either side of that, hinged so that their angles could be changed at will. I used to turn the side mirrors so they would face each other and create infinite regressions of one another. Sometimes I would peer in and plunge into infinity. The night before, we had all gone to a wedding at a church in the heart of the old Havana. On the way home, we had the streets to ourselves, not another moving car in sight, not a soul on the Malisan, the broad avenue along the waterfront. Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette kept talking about the eerie emptiness of the city. Havana was much too quiet for a New Year's Eve. Okay. I can't remember what my older brother Tony was doing that morning or for the rest of the day. Maybe he was wrapping lizards in thin copper wire and hooking them up to our train transformer. He liked to electrocute them. He liked it a lot. My older brother and my adopted brother had both been Bourbon princes in a former life. My adopted brother had been the Dauphin, the heir of the French throne. Why am I struggling? I'll restart that. My adopted brother had been the Dauphin, the heir to the French throne. It's a little bit of an alliteration here, tongue twister, to the French throne. My father had recognized him on the street one day, selling lottery tickets, and brought him to our house immediately. I was the outsider. The lizard remained oblivious to the news that day, as always. Contrary to what my brother Tony liked to say, as he administered shock treatments to them, the lizards were not deluded in the least. They knew exactly what they were and always would be. Nothing had changed for them. Nothing would ever change. The world already belonged to them whole, free of vice and virtue. They scurried up and down the walls of the patio and along its brightly colored floor tiles. They lounged on the tree branches, sunned themselves on rocks. They clung to the ceilings inside our house, waiting for bugs to eat. They never fell in love, or sinned, or suffered broken hearts. They knew nothing of betrayal or humiliation. They needed no revolutions. They feared neither death nor torture at the hands of children. They worried not about curses or proof of God's existence or nakedness. Their limbs looked an awful lot like our own, in the same way that eggplants resemble breasts. Lizards were ugly, to be sure, or so I thought back then. They made me question the goodness of creation. I could never kiss a lizard, I thought. Never. Perhaps I envied them. Their place on earth was more secure than ours. We would lose our place, lose our world. They are still basking in the sun, same way, day in, day out. Ooh, okay. So, for those who need context, here what is going on. We have a writer. Don't think we have his name. No, we do not have his name actually. Well, I can't see it. And the writer is talking about when the leader of the country at the time, Batista, was overthrown. And he was overthrown on the 31st of December. Okay? And here we see that in the first paragraph, he talks about the world changing without asking for his permission. And then we also see here, second paragraph, he's talking about his parents and how he views his parents. Okay? And then here from paragraph 3 for all the way here, so from paragraph 3 paragraph 3 all the way to this one here, he's talking about the morning, so 1st of January, and he's discussing about how he found out that the president, Batista, the leader was overthrown. Okay? And then he goes on talking about the night before, how the night before he was actually outside and the streets were empty. And then he goes on to talk about his brothers and the way that his brother treats lizards. And then he finally, at the end of the text, he's talking about lizards and how it's not more so about lizards, but it's more so about insects. So for insects, things happen in the world. There's wars, there's sicknesses, but bees and mosquitoes and flies, they have no idea. They're not human. They don't really see what goes on in the world like we do. They just exist, right? So that's the point that he's making here at the end. Okay, so very important to take that into consideration, the structure of his thoughts and how he's talking about the situation. So we'll look at language and style first and how those two elements represent the writer's thoughts and feelings. Okay, so first thing we have with language, we have foreshadowing. Okay, foreshadowing because we already know from the first sentence that something is going to happen, and he's creating suspense, right? So we have both language and style. I think that for this text, I'll just analyze language and style together. I won't just do one and then the other after. So we'll do it at the same time. So first paragraph here, we have the foreshadowing, which foreshadowing is also part of style, right? To create suspense and tension. All right, he says the world has changed. So already that's creating suspense. We're like, well, what happened? Who died? Like, well, what's going on? So that is suspense. Okay, and foreshadowing because he says something changed. So we know the rest of the text is going to be about what changed. And he says, no one had consulted me. Okay, and that creates tension. So we see that his feelings are negative about the situation because he said, no one asked for my opinion. So it's not a good thing, right? If things change the way that he wanted them to change, he wouldn't really care about saying this. Because if tomorrow you decide to buy me if tomorrow you decide to buy me a really nice car, I won't be mad at you for it. I'll say, oh, you never asked me if I wanted a really nice car. I'll just take the car and be like, oh, wow, like, thank you, right? But if tomorrow this is really dramatic, but if tomorrow someone like burns your house, you're going to be like, whoa, what's wrong with you? You didn't ask me if I wanted to burn my house, okay? So here it's very clear that there's change, and he does not like the change. It's negative. Okay, and moving on here. Okay, I found this a little bit strange. He says, my father, who vividly remembered his prior incarnation as King Louis XVI of France. So here, he probably is trying to imply, and with sarcasm, right? He says, "My father remembers that he was King Louis XVI." There's sarcasm in the tone because he probably sees his dad having similar personality traits than King Louis XVI of France. Okay, so he says that his father remembers, but we don't know that though, so I think there's sarcasm there. And he goes on to say, "Probably dreamt of costume balls, mobs, and guillotines," right? And here we see guillotines are a device. It's a device which drops a heavy blade used to execute people. Okay, so if someone dreams of executing people by cutting their heads off, I don't think that they're really friendly, right? So I think that his dad is a little bit on the rougher side. Okay, so he said, "My dad probably dreamt of costume balls, mobs, and guillotines." All right, and then he goes on to say his mom, who had no memory of having been Marie Antoinette, couldn't have shared in his dreams. Maybe she dreamt of hibiscus blossoms and fine silk, or of angels. Okay, so not only in this section do we have the sarcasm, we also have proposition of fact. Okay, because we do not know his parents, we don't know the dad or the mom, and he's saying that they probably dreamt, so he's just assuming that his parents dream of these things, right? So that's called a proposition of facts. Propositions of fact. So it means that the writer is trying to convince us that something is true when we could have concrete proof. Like, you can just, if we had the means to do so, you could just go to the dad and be like, "Hey, what did you dream of?" Or the mom, "What did you dream of last night?" Right? Or, "Did you even dream, or do you remember?" Okay, but here the fact that he's trying to convince us of something, that how would he know, right? Unless he asked. So it's called propositions of fact. Okay, so that's what we have here. And we also have direct quotation that has to do with style, because he's quoting directly his mom. Yeah. And also, here forgot to say what effects it has regarding the representation of the writer's thoughts and feelings. So here, the fact that he thinks that his dad dreamt of costume balls and mobs and guillotines, it sees that he has kind of what is it called? Yeah, tyrannical. Like, he sees his dad maybe as some sort of tyrant, right? Especially comparing him to King Louis XVI, some sort of tyrant. So he has a slightly maybe negative view on his dad. But then he says his mom is dreaming of fine silk and little angels. So he has a more positive outlook on his mom. Okay. Direct quotation. So direct quotation, the effect that has, maybe not so much on his own feelings, but we can see that he clearly remembers what was said. So this is something that's stuck with him over time, right? He remembers his mom's exact words. So you could argue that, but I'm not sure I actually don't think that this is very solid in regards to his thoughts and feelings. Okay, we also have symbolism. So little angels. Okay, he explicitly says that just the fact that you have little angels, it means that they're too cute to be fallen angels, and fallen angels are demons, right? So here, in regards of his thoughts and feelings, so especially thoughts here, he thinks and he feels that things that are little, are too cute to be evil. Okay? So those are his thoughts. Alrighty. Moving on. We have as always, okay, which is repetition. As always, and then here we have, let's try red. So as always, he always. Okay. So again, here we have the foreshadowing. He says things change as he slept. And then he goes into what happened that night. And he says, he was dreaming. While things were changing in the background, he was dreaming of childish things. And then he's assuming what his parents are dreaming of as the world is changing in the background. And then he moves on to the day. And this is important for the as always, the repetition, because he says, when the sun came up, okay, so after that night where everything changed, which this is essentially the 31st of December. And how do I know it's the 31st of December? Because here he says New Year's Eve, right? And he said the night before, so New Year's Eve. So it's the 31st. Okay, but anyway, jumping back, this is the morning of the 31st. He says, as always, repetition there. So thoughts and feelings is that on that day, the morning of the 31st, things were normal. Things were happening as they always did, right? So he says, as always, revealing entire galaxies of swirling dust specks. And he says, again, as always, putting emphasis on the fact that everything's happening like they normally did. I stared at the dust as always. Okay. I don't remember getting out of bed, but I do remember walking to my parents' bedrooms. As always, my father was putting on his trousers. He always put on his socks and shoes first, right? And here the cuffs of my pants would always get stuck. This is a bit of a, what do you call this? Sorry, I'm losing my words. It is flashback. Yep, flashback. Because he says, for years I tried to duplicate that nearly magical feat. So in these couple of sentences here, he's just having a flashback. Okay, not too important. Focusing on the as always here in this paragraph really goes to show that he was not expecting things to change, right? No one had consulted me. And even that morning, that morning of the 31st, so it was this day in the morning, everything was happening as they always did. Okay? Right? And here, spat out swear words. It's an idiom. I underlined the whole sentence, but you can just ignore that. It's okay. Here we also have direct metaphor, right? Louis XVI. So from then on, he always calls his dad Louis XVI, Marie Antoinette. Okay, so he's comparing them to the two. Okay, and yeah, so metaphor there. It means that if his thoughts and feelings, if the readers are to Google Louis 16 and Marie Antoinette, they read on these two characters, it's fair to say that the reader would somewhat think that his parents are similar. Okay? And here we have direct dialogue, so style again. So he remembers the direct dialogue here, especially in this part, when his dad says, Batista's gone, he flew out. It looks like the rebels have won. He said, you lie. No, I swear. So it means that this moment is very vivid, and it's stuck in his mind. Okay, so he remembers exactly what was said. That's why he's directly quoting the dialogue. Okay, moving on, we have idioms: plunge into infinity, not a soul in Malasan. Personification: Havana was much too quiet for a New Year's Eve. Okay, so here I'm just pointing out the figure of speech. All right, so an idiom, I don't think that you can can you relate that to his thoughts and feelings? Let's see. You can, but also I don't. He could have used he could have not used an idiom, and there's nothing special about the fact that it's an idiom. So I just pointed out this figure of speech just to point it out in case you want to mention it. That, oh, by the way, he does use a few idioms, but in regards of having anything to do with his thoughts and feelings explicitly, it's a little bit weak of an argument, okay? But anyway, this personification is useful. Havana was too quiet for a New Year's Eve. So here, through the means of a personification, he's expressing the fact that he had the feeling that something was off. And here he does say that Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, his mom and his dad, were talking about the eerie emptiness. So eerie is creepy. So creepy or dark emptiness of the city. All right. And Havana was too quiet. So there's foreshadowing happening again. So here I have foreshadowing in red, by the way. Foreshadowing in blue, but it could be red or blue. It's language, and remember when I say that it takes language to create style, so you can argue both ways, doesn't matter, but the foreshadowing is something that he seems to do, so it's his style. He foreshadows a lot because he did it in the first paragraph. He does it again, and here he foreshadowed through personification. Okay, it was too quiet. Just like, if you have if you had little brothers, or if you have a little cousin, and you realize that with children, when children are quiet, it means that they're up to something bad. They're doing something bad, right? If you leave a baby in the room and the baby just goes quiet, you know that they're either eating something or they're breaking something. They're doing something they're not supposed to do. So here, same thing. The city was so quiet on New Year's Eve, so there must be something going on, and it must not be a good thing. Okay? Moving on. So here, the writer makes use of medium sentences. I would say the dominating sentences are medium. So we have impactful statements here through short sentences. When he says, when he says he liked to electrocute them, he liked it a lot, right? He's talking about the lizards. So he's repeating the fact that, hey, he liked to electrocute them. He liked it a lot, right? It's impactful because he could have just stopped there and just let the readers know that his older brother likes to electrocute lizards, but he really puts emphasis on it by saying, he likes it a lot, right? So you're like, oh, okay, it's a little bit not normal that you like to electrocute insects. Why not just leave them alone? But anyway, and he also talks about his adopted brother, right? And he says that here I found it impactful because he says that when his dad, through an analogy, right? He's using an analogy. talking about his brother being both his brothers being bourbon princes and all this other stuff that I'm not familiar with. But the important thing here is he says that his dad brought his adopted brother home and he felt like he was an outsider. So here it confirms what we are told all the way at the beginning, right? The writer feels that he is an outsider, both in terms of his family and the outside world, okay? So here he explicitly says that he is an outsider from his family, and it started when his adoptive brother was brought home. So again, impactful statement that is related to his thoughts and feelings, okay? And then here, they worried not, a random figure of speech again. We have a litot, okay? So they worried not, right? So saying they didn't worry not. Lizards were ugly, or so I thought. Passing comment, we have a passing comment again, style. Okay, but the most important thing for me in this paragraph is the paragraph as a whole. What he's doing here is we call juxtaposing. Juxtaposing, which is, it's not the same thing, but we have juxtaposing and implicit remarks. Juxtaposing is when you put two opposing concepts together, right? So the major part of the text is about how things changed, right? And how there's rebels who took over. So the world changed. And then the last paragraph is about how things don't change for lizards. So juxtaposing, we have no change with so much change. Okay, so much change in one night. All right, so, and implicit remarks here. The implicit remark, what I mean by that is here when he says, for example, they never fell in love or sinned or suffered broken hearts. Okay, so he's talking about lizards, but really you can see that his message is in between the line. His message is really about humans, right? So when he says the lizards never fell in love, what he really means is humans fall in love, we sin, we suffer broken hearts, we know everything about betrayal and humiliation. Humans do need revolutions. Humans fear death, torture at the hands of not children, but a government, police, and anything you want to replace children with, right? Because in this case here, he's talking about his brother who electrocutes the lizards. And he's making an implicit remark. That's just the point, right? He's really talking about humans, but by pointing out everything that lizards don't deal with, that we deal with, okay? So it's very implicit, okay? Subliminal, I cannot pronounce this. Yes, subliminal message. There you go, subliminal message. All right, and yes, that's what the end is about. And he really says, day in, day out, we have more powerful statements. This whole thing is just a powerful ending. Perhaps I envy them. So he's justifying why he could never kiss a lizard, right? And he says, maybe it's actually because I envy them. And their place on earth was more secure than ours. We would lose our place, lose our world. They are still basking in the sun, same way, day in, day out. So here, really, he just feels like insects, animals, whether humans are here or not, they go on, right? They go on. The birds will still fly. The birds will still eat from the grains that they find on the ground, beside trees in the forest, whatever, right? Humans are actually the ones who have so much to lose, right? Because we depend on one another, and we acknowledge things, right? More than animals. Like, the animals don't know who the president of whatever country is. I think I said animals, right? Animals don't know anything that's going on as far as politics or school, or they don't know. They just live, and that's what he's saying here. Okay. Other little comments that I've made about language. If you want, we have first person, second person, third person in the text. Sentence length, we have medium. Medium and short. Okay. I think medium and short dominate. I haven't seen that many very long sentences. Okay. We also have complex vocabulary, right? Complex, because we have words like perhaps, resembled, diluted, administered, wrapped, eerie. Okay. And by the way, this is really proof that the words are a bit complex, because for wrapped was put here as a footnote with the definition, So the fact that there's a need to do that, it really means that the average person might not know what wrapped means in this context. Okay, so it's complex, uncommon. The tone, we have dramatic. I find him very dramatic, to be honest. Right? The fact that already he's using implicit remarks and he's trying to relay his message through lizards, that's pretty dramatic. As well, when he says, he's talking about, oh yes, you can hear the idioms. When I said I didn't know how to use it for his feelings, this plays on to how dramatic he is. Okay, plunge into infinity by putting two mirrors together. It's very dramatic, right? He's using idioms to be dramatic. Not a soul, right? Again, dramatic. Instead of saying there wasn't anyone there, he says not a soul. And also the fact that he calls his mom and his dad Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, so pretty dramatic too. So all of his metaphors and figure of speech, so they do really add on to his dramatic tone, actually, if I could say. Okay, so this is what I have for part A. Okay, and now we move on to part B. Later, the writer's mother records the experience of this day in her diary. Write a section of the diary between 150, 120 words. Base your answer closely on the material of the original extract. Okay, so here again, keyword later. So it means that same day, right? Because remember, we have the night before, and then we have the morning when things change, and then we do a little flashback back to the night, the New Year Eve, and then we come back to this current day that he's talking about and mentioning the lizards, right? So here we're talking about later, which means the 1st of January, maybe at nighttime. That's when the mother wrote in her diary, okay? And answer closely to the material of the original extract. So here, what I first did, I went to see where's the mom mentioned. The mom is mentioned here when it comes to her dreams, okay? Her dreaming of little angels and what she also says to her children about dreaming of little angels. And then also the dialogue here, how her son didn't believe the husband, well, the dad, when he said, oh, Batista is gone. And then the mom was sitting at her vanity table applying lipstick. And she said, oh, yeah, actually, it is true. Your father's not joking. He really is gone. Okay? So those are the only, here's the only first page is the only place where the mom is mentioned. So we have the dream, and we also have the vanity table, and vanity table also has to do with the fact that he went into his parents' room, right? I do remember walking into my parents' room. So the vanity situation table here was inside the parents' room. Let's take a look. I'll read to you. And since this was since this is a diary, I didn't really try to copy anything directly. I just really based myself on the information itself, and I completely changed everything, right? Because here the son is writing, so the way the son writes may not be the same way that the mother writes. Okay, so let's read what I have for you. I said, again, keeping somewhat though the same style, right? So never would I have thought that the world could change so drastically, okay? Same thing that her son said, the first sentence, right? It changed while I slept. So I say, never would I have thought that the world could change so drastically overnight, okay? It will never be the same, and the worst is that I do not know how to explain this to my boys, okay? Explain this to my boys. We know that we have the author, that's the child, and he has two brothers, one biological and one adopted. So here, that's why the mom says, I don't know how to explain this to my boys. This morning, it was Hugo that told our 8-year-old boy that Batista is gone. Okay, so here it was Hugo. I made up the dad's name, okay, because here in the text he calls his dad Louis 16, but I don't think the mom would write in her diary, oh, Louis 16, right? So I made up the name Hugo. An 8-year-old boy comes from the fact that he says I was barely 8 years old. Okay, this might be a mistake. Maybe I should have said 7-year-old, but I don't know. 8 years old is fine. So he says barely 8. And here I also use direct quote, right, to copy the style as well. Batista is gone. So direct quote, that Batista is gone. You lie, my sweet boy said, bewildered. Right? You lie, I said. So here, you lie, my sweet boy said, bewildered. And here I'm just milking the fact that it's a mom and she's talking about her kids. So of course the mom wouldn't just say my boy said. So my sweet boy, right? Just to add on, stretch it a bit. I was seated at my vanity table, right? Comes from the fact that here it is mentioned in the original text that the mom is seated at her vanity table. Hey, I was seated at my vanity table, pretending to be indifferent when I assured him that it was true. I could not even look at my sweet boy. Okay, repetition, sweet boy. How is a mother supposed to explain to her children that the world is not as peaceful as their innocent eyes may think? Okay, so here I'm just portraying the worry, going with the fact that the son said that he's not happy about the change, right? No one consulted him. And then he goes on with that comparison about the lizards. So here the mom also is not too happy. She said, how is a mother supposed to explain to her children, right, that the world's not as peaceful? So rhetorical question. And then here, direct quote again, content, right? Base your answer closely on the material of the original extract, okay? So we know that the mom says this, dream of little angels, right? And this is how she says it. So of course, in her diary, she's going to use the language, right, itself. She won't have it translated. So here, suena con los angelitos, I always told them, dream of little angels. Okay, so here I recycled this. What will I tell them tonight? What will my own dreams be like tonight? Okay, so that's my ending. What will I tell them tonight? What will my own dreams be like tonight? And I'm also playing on the fact that here the boy questioned what his mother's dreams are going to be. So here I just throw this in to, I guess, not be comical, but what will her own dreams be like? So I don't confirm whether she dreams of silk and little angels. I just play a little bit here too. You know, what will she dream about? Okay, and that's what I have. It's short, but remember, 120 to 150 words, so it does fit in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I will have about 100 words for sure. So maybe I'm a little bit below. I don't think so. No. Let's see. No, it seems to be within the limits. It's on the lower end, but it's still within. Yeah. Okay. So that's how I ended it. What will my own dreams be like tonight? Okay. So this is what I have for part B. All right. And that is it for question 3, meaning that that is it for our A-level paper 1, variant 1-3, May-June 2014. Okay, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. If you find it helpful, leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any new content that I publish. And with that being said, I hope that you have a beautiful day, beautiful night, depending on where you are located in the world. All right, and I will see you in the next video.